Let's get my glasses on in case anybody actually has something to ask. Oh dear. So, a few clouds in the sky today. Not many. It's quite nice, quite a welcome break to be honest. So it's about 29, 30 degrees. Gratuitous shots of the swimming pool, as always, because that is without doubt the best thing I've ever spent money on, or we've ever spent money on. We. That Hoover is the best thing I've spent money on, because that saves me a load of work. So I love that thing. Grass is doing all right. It's coming back. Got a new addition. This is our bollock tree. I think it needs to go to the doctors, because if your bollocks are green, there's something wrong. Figs, apparently. So, let's see. It should grow. Everything grows out here. Peaches, I think these branches are going to snap soon, just with the sheer weight. I'm not sure it's a peach tree, I think it's a hybrid grape vine. The amount that's on it is insane. Absolutely insane. Poor thing. Can't even hold its own weight up, I've had to prop it up. Look. I don't know if that's normal for a peach tree, but it looks a little bit freaky to me. I think there's a lot on there. And there's a lot of them actually growing together like this. I suppose that's why they're called peaches. That's where you get the peachy bum from. There it is. So, today's mission has been finally trying to dispose of the damn walnut tree that I chopped up. And it has been a bit of a mission. So, tried sawing it by hand. Yeah, that wasn't going to happen. So, tried sawing it up with an electric saw. Yeah, that wasn't happening. So a friend of mine has just come around with a chainsaw. And that didn't work either. So we managed to get it into 3 bits. And that's as much as it's got. But yeah, you can certainly understand why. Walnut is used in a lot of applications because it is hard. Is that a froggy? Oh yeah, we've got a froggy under there. There he goes. Regular visitors. So this is our composty kind of heap, which we're slowly trying to tidy up bit by bit. A lot of barbecues gets rid of the wood. We've got a vine thing going on over here, which the wife got me to attach some string to the fence, and that seems to be doing all right. Like I say, everything seems to grow here. Apparently that's not dead. Looks like a collection of sticks to me, but no. And then we've got a new wisteria and an old wisteria. I'm not convinced he's going to make it. But, as I say, out here you can't say that, because everything does. Everything grows. So, sauna progress. So we've got the heater and the controller. Gone for a Geos. And a big electric heater. It's about, I think, 12 kilowatt maybe. Not sure. Might be 9. I don't know. Controller will go up there. And the guys have replastered a couple of the walls because the tilers came round and said they're not straight enough, so they've replastered them. And we think they're back tomorrow. So this is where the heating element will go, in that corner. We think, like I say, we think they're back tomorrow. Let's carry on with that. It'd be nice to actually see it starting to take shape and starting to get rid of some of this lot. It'd be quite good. Might get the garage back one day, might be able to park the car in it. Might be a bit too much to hope for, but we'll see. Must do something with that pile of stones. But I have been saying that for about 3 months. But Rome wasn't built in a day. It was ruined. More green things happening. Things, they come and go. I don't know what goes on. I have no clue. I'm an old dog. I don't want to learn stuff. I'm too old. So that's something. This, I reckon, is dead. But we're leaving it just in case. But I'm fairly confident that's dead. This is the walnut tree. This was the plan for the walnut tree, was to chop it into nice slices and then make a nice path somewhere. But that's how many slices we got before we killed the chainsaw. So, yeah, it's pretty tough, that walnut. Now, in England, that walnut would be worth a fortune. Or in Italy, maybe, where they use it for gun stocks. You cut it up into what they call blanks to put in a CNC machine to machine out for gun stocks. And depending on how gnarly it is, depending on how figured the wood is, depends on how much it's worth. And it's insane what some of the really figured gun stocks are worth. Absolutely insane. Thousands. Plum tree's still hanging in there. Still hanging in there. So yeah, as I said, a little bit cloudy here today, but it is a bit of a welcome relief. So it means we can get on with stuff. Not that we've got on with a great deal, other than chopping up that damn walnut tree. Let's go and have a look up on the terrace. Excuse the wind, it's not me. So I've got a bit of an issue with the terrace. Got some bits missing. So it sprung a leak. And we're just waiting to hear what they've decided to do or what they intend to do. Personally, I think they're going to come along and dig the whole lot up and start again. So we've got that to look forward to. But it is lovely here. We love it here. This house is now having the inside built, I think, because most houses and flats over here are built in what they call in the grey, and it's not uncommon for you to buy a property and the people you buy it from take the kitchen with them. That is not uncommon at all, which in the UK it's unheard of. You know, you buy the house as is. I'm sure you'd negotiate here if you wanted the kitchen, but it's completely normal to buy a property and people take the kitchen with them. I think sometimes they even can take the bathroom with them as well, which, you know, it's very strange if you're coming from the UK, you're not used to that kind of thing. And equally, you're not used to buying a new house from a developer that's completely gutted inside, completely raw. You know, not even plastered walls, which again, very common here. You buy it in the grey, hasn't even got plaster on the walls, no light switches or fittings, no decorative stuff at all. Sometimes, well, no doors, for example, and again, that's completely normal. And I get, you know, I understand it once you wrap your head around it. It's not a bad way of doing things, because you're then putting everything in the house that you want, rather than sort of going into a house that's brand new and going, well, I quite like the interior, it's quite nice, and you know, you can literally do it exactly how you want. So it makes sense. Otherwise, you know, what's the developer got to do? Offer 1,000 different options, and then somebody will want 1,001. So yeah, it's a good way of keeping the cost down when you buy a house. You don't get that option really in the UK. You're buying a house in the UK on a development, it is turnkey. Here's your keys, sir, move in. Bathroom's fitted, kitchen's fitted. If you're buying it from the beginning, obviously you can spec what kitchen you want, what colours you want, that kind of thing, but from a catalogue. But you don't, as far as I'm aware, get the option to buy it like you can here in the grey. And consequently, you know, you're paying over the odds for a kitchen, you're paying over the odds for the bathroom, plus you're having to find that cost up front. Where here, if you buy it in the grey, there is none of that cost, so you're just paying for the land and the actual bare house. And if you're on a budget, you know, you could spend very, very little on the house, you know, put a toilet in effectively, and away you go. And then you can, you know, build the inside as and when you see fit, you know, whether it's money constraints or time constraints. And that's what a lot of people do. They'll buy a house down in the south where we are, and maybe they're living in Siberia at the moment, they're working there, and this is a very, very common thing. And they'll buy the house in the grey, and then they'll spend 2 or 3 years kitting it out, you know, a bit each month, a bit every 6 months or whatever. And they'll just take their time because they're not planning on moving into it yet. So like I say, here that is a really, really, really common thing. Just not something we do in the UK. Don't really know why. It's just not our way, I suppose. It's not what we do. But also, I suppose, most people in the UK don't have second homes. Most people are trying to hang on to one home, let alone expanding to more. I'm sure there'll be people that go, no, I've got 12. Yeah, of course, it's always an exception to the rule. But generally, people are mortgaged up to the hilt on one house, trying to keep their heads above water. So you don't have that luxury of being able to buy a second home, completely stripped out inside, cheaply, and then build it at your leisure. You haven't got that luxury. Whereas, like I say, here, very common. And it's also very common to wander around the neighbourhood and see houses half built, like that one in the distance there. Again, very common. You can see houses half built, and they'll stay like that for years sometimes. And you know, they're probably self-builds. People have bought the land and then they're building the house slowly. And again, another common thing, you'll see a brick, you know, a rough brick or block house with, you know, no windows in it, you know, no outer skin to make it look pretty, because houses tend to be built in block and then they put an outer skin on in brick to make them look nice, like all of these. These are bricks on the outside, and then on the inside they're grey blocks, like this house right down here, if you can see. So that's made of grey concrete blocks, and that's the first thing that goes up, and that's your structural, and then the outside tends to be more decorative. But you'll find them built in block, no windows, no doors, no outer skin, and a brand new roof. So again, very common. I've seen that an awful lot. You walk around and you'll see a brand spanking new roof on a building that's just blocks and has been there for years. I don't fully understand why. I haven't delved into it. I don't know if it's a law. I don't know if it's just to try and weatherproof it. But the weather here is pretty good, apart from obviously some points in the winter. And equally, if you haven't got any doors or windows on it, it's not exactly weatherproof. But there we go. So, hi to the people that are watching. Thanks for tuning in. I just thought I'd turn the camera on and show you Russia today. So, over that way is Crimea if you travel about 60 miles. So that'll give you an idea where we are. And here is the sea over this way. And also Turkey over that way. So we're currently in 29, I think, maybe 30 degrees today, but with a bit of cloud, which gives us a bit of breeze as well. So it's really pleasant. It's really, really lovely climate. It's not 30 degrees in the UK is, I think if you're from the UK, you'll admit it's horrible. It's just, it feels just so stifling, I suppose. But 30 degrees here, and let's use the cliche, well, it's a different kind of heat. It is. It's that simple. It really is. It's a different kind of heat out here. So 33, 34 degrees, yeah, it's hot, but it's not, you know, you're not dripping in sweat, and it's not stifling. But it's just lovely. You know, I've spent probably 8 months, 9 months of the year in shorts. So it's just a really nice climate, really nice. But yeah, we've got a lot going on at the moment. Like I say, we've got builders back, I think, for the sauna, and obviously a different gang to come and do the terrace once they decide the best way to deal with it. So more and more mess and building. It's always challenging. The garage, I am literally bored with tidying it up, to be honest. It's I tidy it up, it becomes a dumping ground. I tidy it up, it's a dumping ground. I'll tidy it up one day again for the 10th time. But a lot of mess. Bought myself an electric trimmer the other day. Epic, so powerful. It's far more powerful than the petrol one I was using. So people say electric's rubbish, but I disagree. It's plug and play, especially when the chainsaw today was giving us a load of grief because it's a petrol one. Mind you, I don't know about an electric chainsaw. I don't know how good that would do against that walnut tree. It's a bit of a task. So inside, where's our new addition? Sleeping in the tube, maybe? No. Oh, that's the latest sleeping position. Look at that. You got this thing, our cat hotel, and the donut decides there's the best place to sleep on a nice hard surface. Well done, cat. You're a genius. So if you've got any questions, I've actually got my glasses on today. Let's click on all messages. Oh dear. Let me ask the wife if she can translate what's been written to me in Russian. Где corner? Don't know. Oh, there's another reprobate, look. Wife, can you translate that for me?
Welcome to где corner?
Yeah.
Where's the corner? Is it
Corner of what?
the dog or what corner?
Dog? Dog? What's dog got to do with corner? Even I know the word for dog.
No, I mean your dog
Corner? No, that's Corso.
course.
That's not corner.
I don't know.
No. Yeah, sorry. Even the wife doesn't know what that is, so I've got absolutely no chance. But welcome and where, kind of worked that one out. So where is just outside of Napa, on the coast of the Black Sea. We are outside of the main town because, to be honest, Napa is lovely. The beach is amazing. There's loads of lovely restaurants, lots for the kids to do, lovely evening activities, brilliant, seaside resort. But in holiday season, there's a lot of people, and I'm quite keen to not have a lot of people. So we tend not to spend that much time in Napa in holiday season. We go and visit from time to time, but we choose our times. But in holiday season, like any holiday resort, traffic's a problem, and lots of people. So, but that's why we've built the house the way we have, so we can spend plenty of time in the house and not feel the need to go out. And I think that's the problem with a lot of properties in the UK. Tiny little gardens shoehorned together, and yeah, you don't really get any downtime, so you're always looking to go out somewhere. Whereas here, the houses and the land is a decent size, so you've got a decent sized garden, and you can, you make the house your own, and then it's not so much of a problem needing to get out all the time. So I've got to cut the grass again. That's a regular thing here. 10 days is absolute maximum. Realistically, it's a 6 or 7 day job, just because it grows insanely. And our grass is, I think, 5 different varieties, so some people sort of think that it's full of weeds and stuff. It's not, it's just all different flowers, just because we didn't want just plain grass. And also plain grass would struggle here as well, and it does. You're permanently feeding it and watering it probably twice a day. It's a little bit more fragile, whereas the different varieties, you get bigger leaves, and it just it just helps with it surviving. I mean, a couple of weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, it was in a bit of a sorry state, to be fair. Lots of dead grass and brown patches, but you just chuck some water on it and back it comes. So it's been watered, not every night, but every other night. And of course that stimulates it growing, which means I've got to cut it. So that'll be a mission for later on this afternoon, I guess. Yeah, if you're watching, where are you watching from? VVV, very nice and peaceful. Have a lovely Sunday. Yeah, I forget it's Sunday. Thank you. You too, wherever you are. I do forget it's a Sunday. I forget every day, to be honest. I have no comprehension of time out here. It's just lovely. It's just nice and relaxing. And sometimes we have to go to an appointment for something, but generally, we get up when we want, we eat when we want, we sleep when we want, and it's a lovely life. It really is. So I'm going to need to go for a swim, because that is part of the daily routine. He obviously thinks that swimming in my pool is okay. Well, he hasn't paid rent, so he's going to have to go. Don't know what he's doing. Backstroke by the looks of it. But yeah, pool's good, especially once you get older. Your joints start to ache a bit. It's lovely to get in a swimming pool and keep being able to exercise without murdering your arms and legs. Let's go fishing. Fish him out. Here we go. Out you go. You're not paying rent. Out. So we've got 2 covers on our pool, in case you're wondering. We've got this blue one, which is a solar cover, and the grey one, which is an all-weather cover. A solar cover is just a series of bubbles, basically, and it has to go on bubble side down. So if you're ever getting one for your pool, it's just bubbles on one side, so it's just like the stuff that you get wrapped around your Christmas present, your bubble wrap, but obviously a lot more durable. But it always goes bubble side down, and that's to give it a good surface area, so that the sun heats this side, and then that obviously heats the air inside each of these bubbles, which in turn has got a much greater surface area and heats the pool. And it does heat the pool. I know a lot of people say, no, it doesn't, it just keeps the temperature. Well, it does both. I've tested it. I've tested it without the cover on all day, and I've tested it with the cover on. And certainly with the cover on, it will gain 2 degrees in the sun. Without the cover, a degree, maybe. Depends on the day. So definitely recommended. And here, I mean, the temperature will drop 10 degrees in the evening, overnight. So if you leave it uncovered, you're going to lose 2 or 3 degrees by morning. So good thing to have. Keeps the temperature nice in the pool. So pool temperature is 30 degrees, and I think the highest I've seen is about 33.5 degrees this year. but pretty much stays a constant 30 odd degrees. Obviously if we get 2 or 3 hot days of 33, 34 degree plus, then it will creep up, but generally that seems to be its happy medium, 30 degrees, which is nice. In there's the auto top up. So you may or may not be aware, but the water evaporates, and it's surprising how much does evaporate. And rather than having to keep checking your level, etc, etc, we've got an auto top up system in here, which is just a ball float. That's all it is. Same sort of thing you find in your toilet. As the water level goes down, down goes the ball float, opens the valve, and in it pumps water in through that jet there. And then there's 4 return jets down the side of the pool and 3 lights. So as the year draws on and the nights get darker earlier, we'll start using the lights. We don't at the moment. And in that side of the skimmers, and they just draw water across the surface and back in recycling, and then goes through the filtration system, comes back out of those 4 jets. And the other one is the sump, which is just drawing water from the bottom of the pool. So you've permanently got water moving, obviously all the time it's on. We've got it set for 4 hours on, 4 hours off. And it's a saltwater pool, so no chemicals other than an algicide once a week. You just have to add, which is not very much, small couple of capfuls, and just add that in front of the jets. And that's all that I've done to this pool in a year. So all that's happened. So yeah, once it's got the salt in it, we have a salt generator, electrolysis, which converts the salt into chlorine. So despite what people might say, saltwater pool is still a chlorine pool, but it is at a much lower level, and it's not a chemical chlorine, it's a salt generated chlorine. And it is different, it smells different, it tastes different. You dive in a chlorine pool with your eyes open, and 10 minutes later your eyes are red and quite sore. This, never. You can swim about in this all day with your eyes open. It's perfect. Never ever irritates your eyes, doesn't irritate your skin. Come out, your skin's lovely and soft. You don't stink of chlorine. So yeah, it's a bit extra to set up a saltwater pool, because you have to have a computer to control it. You don't have to, I suppose you could do it manually, but yeah, it's a bit extra to do it, but once you've done it, it's just much nicer than swimming, and it's well worth it. So if you're thinking of building a pool, salt water is the way to go, I would think. We've also pre-planned to heat this one day, so we've actually run pipework for this up into the house to the boiler. So it's not connected yet, but we may well put a heat exchanger on it and then heat the pool, and then we can use it all through the winter. But this year we're just concentrating on getting the sauna and the shower room done in the outside of the garage, or back end of the garage, and then yeah, maybe we'll heat the pool in the future. But like I say, we've run the pipe work, so we have that option. Now I know this looks untidy, and it was supposed to be temporary 3 months ago, so I suppose it is temporary. It's only months, isn't it? It's not years. That makes it temporary, doesn't it? I can get away with calling that temporary, can't I? Yeah, anyhow, just because we don't know where we're going to permanently have it, so we keep moving it about. We've got another one, but we just haven't got into the swing of pool life yet. We just come out, swim, get back in, and you know, there's so many other things going on around the house. We haven't sort of started to develop this. But here's a little spoiler. Oh, I've got the glasses, look at that. Luckily nobody's asking me a question, I wouldn't be able to read it. We plan to enclose this swimming pool. Yes. Why didn't we do it at the beginning? Yeah, we didn't plan it then. We're just planning it now. So not 100% sure how we're going to do it, but probably from the concrete end up there and encompass all of the patio that side, and then right the way down to the drainage here. So obviously any water will still drain away. And probably put posts in these corners along, and then across, and then down the other side. So it kind of lends itself to being fairly straightforward, he says, laughing. So we'll put a post here, and then there and there. Then a roof, and then the sides, at the moment, we're thinking about making them completely removable. So in the winter, you just clip the sides on, the pool will be heated, and you can come out here, sit next to the pool, have a couple of patio heaters in here maybe, and just sort of chill a bit. And in the summer, clip all the sides off, and it's still, you know, still fairly open and nice and breezy. But that design is literally in its infancy, so more than happy to suggest, or for people to suggest any ideas of how we should do that. What else is this? Community moderation. I don't want censorship. Go away. Everything's censored nowadays. Good old YouTube. Outside shower. It's going to go here. That's probably going to be the feed for it. I'm not entirely sure how we're going to do it. I think realistically that is going to get capped off just below ground level, so it means digging up a bit of concrete and then reinstating it, and then this is lending itself kind of to a cubicle. So we've got an outside shower that's solar powered, and by that I mean it hasn't got a solar panel on it. It is just a storage for water. I think it holds about 20 litres. So you put cold water in the bottom of it, and then it's a big tube that holds about 20 litres of water. And out here, the sun will heat that up to 35, 40 degrees. So you've got a nice warm shower, but just with a cold feed. It's kind of cool. As long as you're not spending 20 minutes underneath it, you'll be fine. Very common out here to see outdoor showers. Our neighbour's got one just there. I don't know if you can see that. The green thing. Let me see if I can zoom in. There we go. So you see that square on the top there. That's a water tank, and it's black. Holds probably, I would guess, 100, maybe 150 litres of water, and it's just heated by the sun. Very, very common. Very common. When I first saw them, I thought they were diesel tanks. I thought people had installed them for additional heating fuel or something, but no, they are outdoor showers. And they don't require anything other than cold water feed, just the temperature of the sun. And you might think, why would you put a shower in the garden, just go in the house? But today will be a good example, because I will be covered in grass clippings by the time I've cut this grass. And at the moment, I've got a choice of sticking my feet under the outside tap and my hands, getting as best as I can, and then all covered in grass and rubbish and hot and sweaty, I'll walk indoors and get in the shower. Whereas these guys will get covered in rubbish whilst they're out doing the garden all day, and they'll just walk into there and have a nice shower. So very common. Not a luxury we can do in the UK, because the thing will never get up to temperature. It'll probably make 20 degrees if you're lucky, but not here. So very common to see that in southern Russia. Outdoor shower. Everybody also in southern Russia, pretty much, say everybody, never everybody, but you get the idea, vast majority, grows their own fruit and veg. We are a bit weird because we've got grass. Most people go, where's your veg patch? Because everybody grows their own fruit and veg. One, why wouldn't you? You can't get much fresher, can you? Walking into the garden, picking your own fruit and veg and going and eating it. And two, you know where it is, you know what it's come from. There's no pesticides on it or anything at all. And three, it's cheap, like the budgie. Cheap. So it's a good plan. We have only got fruit trees at the moment. We have a cherry tree, the poor old peach tree that's back is about to break, a plum tree whose days are limited, and a new addition, which is the green bollock tree. No, the fig tree. So yeah, we're a bit weird because we haven't grown anything else. We tend to just trot off to the shop, but we do have plans. There are long-term plans, and you'll have to keep tuning in every now and again to see what they are. But our plans are to get a bit of fruit and veg growing. We also plan to turn that mess down the side of the house into a bit of a herb stroke chilli garden. So I quite like mint, even though it's a weed, but I like it. I love minted lamb, for example. Get a nice piece of lamb, soak it in mint overnight. Oh, lovely. I fancy a bit of lamb now I've said that. Oh God. So yeah, down this bit here will be yeah, some herbs and small veggies, maybe some tomatoes, definitely some chilies, because I do like a chili or two. I still want to grow a watermelon. The wife always says no. Never really dived into why. I don't know if it's because she just doesn't want to. I suppose the price of them here, why would you bother growing the damn thing when you can literally drive? I mean, we went out last night for a drive and drove past, I don't know how many, would you call them outdoor markets, outdoor stalls, selling melons, all the varieties you can think of, and loads of them everywhere. They are literally grown in the fields all around us and areas in absolute abundance. So I kind of get why there's no point in growing one. You just go and buy one when you want it. And they're so cheap, it's ridiculous. But there's something that's ticking away in my head. It's an itch I need to scratch about growing a damn melon. So maybe we'll plant a melon there. But no, tomatoes, chilies, some herbs. You know, come out, pick whatever you want, pass it through the kitchen window. That's the plan. And here, one day, will be a shed type arrangement for garden crap. I nearly called it a hoover. Grass hoover, there you go. Yeah, to keep the lawnmower in, spade, shovels, all of that rubbish. That tap there will then go inside the shed. And we may well run a, what's it called? What do they call them? Hydroponic system? I think that might be the word. I think I might have found the right word in my tiny little brain. Yeah, if it is the right word, I'm going to use it again, and if it's not, I'm still going to use it again. So a hydroponic system from this into the veggie and the herbs, and that'll keep it all watered. So we haven't got to go out there with a watering can. Just let it set itself up, little computer to control it, and it can feed all of whatever we plant there. Watermelons. I'll keep trying. You can't hear me, so I can keep saying watermelon. So yeah, shed there of some description. And then don't know what to do with this fence. I want to close it off. Just because the ground's obviously shrunk a lot, and you can see the concrete's sticking out, so you have to sort of avoid it when you're cutting the grass. And it's not very level, and I want to be able to level it off a bit more. So I'm very tempted to get rid of that fence and put a fence like that up, just so we're nice and private, nicely enclosed. Not that we're not private here anyway. It's amazing. We hardly ever see any neighbours, to be honest. These guys have got a very, very large piece of land, and they're growing all sorts. And they keep themselves to themselves, as do these guys. Same thing, got a load of land. So nobody's in our business. It's not a case that we don't want people looking into us. But I think one, it'll just look a lot nicer, and two, which will make a big difference here, is the way the wind is directed. I mean, we're very lucky just with these two fences either side. It is massively cut down the wind in the back garden, so you get out the pool and it's not blowing a gale. And some days it is windy here, but luckily for us, not too bad because of the fences. And I think if we close the fence off across the back there, it'll make it, you know, far less. And then I'll probably regret it and think that it's too hot and end up taking the fence down. That's probably how it'll go. But we've got to try these things first. If you're new to watching, Chinese car, thoroughly recommended. Thoroughly recommended. Very, very surprising, that thing. Just been used and abused since we bought it. Gucci interior. Filthy dirty, covered in dust. Needs a little bit of love, poor thing. But this thing has been brilliant. It really has. It has not missed a beat. 15,000 kilometres on it now that we've done. And it has never let us down. Extremely comfortable to drive. Extremely comfortable. So, yeah, such a surprise. That was one of the biggest surprises with the car. It's actually coming out of BMWs and Mercs. And especially Mercs, I find BMWs are a little bit more of a sportier ride because of the tyre choice. But the Mercs are a little bit more plush. But that, you know, I had an E-Class back in the UK, and that drives as well as the E-Class did. I'm not lying. It is as smooth as the E-Class was. It's lovely. Rides the bumps really well. Very pleasant car to drive. 7-speed auto gearbox, electronic 4-wheel drive or 2-wheel drive. Climate control, heated seats front and rear. It's got everything you'd want on it. Parking cameras, 360 cameras. Yeah, very, 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 very good. Forget what you know about Chinese cars. You know, the stigma of them being absolute rubbish and all that. Yeah, maybe years ago they were, but they're a different ballgame now. They really are. Has it got the build quality of an Audi or a BMW? Probably not. There's things on it that are a little bit, you know, a little bit plasticky, but you've got to look for them. Generally, it's pretty good. My biggest gripe, or not my biggest gripe, but probably my only gripe, is the stupid steering wheel. Now, you've got lovely soft leather, and it is soft as well. Lovely soft centre console leather, armrest, and then you've got this fake plasticky steering wheel, and that's the bit that connects you to the car. It's the bit you're holding. Why, oh why, for the cost that it would have been, why didn't they cover that steering wheel in the same stuff that they covered the centre console in? It would have given it a real luxurious feel. You know, you'd have sat in it, grabbed the steering wheel and thought, oh, that feels nice. Because like I say, that's the only thing that you ever touch on the car. You know, you're wearing shoes, so you don't feel the pedals. You don't touch the gearbox because it's auto. So your hands are pretty much permanently sat on the steering wheel, and it's a plastic thing. It's just such a shame. Yes, I know the door cards are, you know, plasticky, but they always are. But this is all leather. The inlay's all leather. Same as all the cars now. But the steering wheel, it's a silly thing. But it's the thing you notice. Well, I notice. Maybe I'm a weirdo. So, I've got plans to recover it. You can get it done here in Russia. And it's not quite a while you wait service, but it is one day. So you drive there in the morning, leave your car, come back and collect it in the afternoon, and the cost is about £80, and they will trim it with any colour stitching you want, whether you want it in Alcantara, whether you want it in leather or half and half, or you want stripes on it, whatever you want, anything you can get done. In the UK, I'll give a shout out to the company that I had my Mustang wheel done by, and that's Royal Steering Wheels. So if you've got a crappy steering wheel on your car and you want it retrimmed, look up Royal Steering Wheels. Can't remember the guy's name. But basically you have to send them your steering wheel. So you park your car up for a week. It can be a bit inconvenient. They might offer an exchange service now, but when I had the Mustang wheel done, they didn't. So, oh, I think they did actually. I think you could pay, no, I'll tell a lie, I think you could pay £100 extra. And then you can swap the wheel over. They'll have a, you know, one already in stock sort of thing. And then you pay like a surcharge until you send them your wheel. So no, you don't. You can do that. But you can have it trimmed any which way you like, and it's lovely. But it's not the same cost as it is here in Russia. I think I paid about £320 to have my Mustang steering wheel done, but it's lovely. You know, it's so nice. It transforms the car. Might not think it, but if you've got a plasticky steering wheel, trust me, send it to Royal Steering Wheels if you're in the UK and get them to retrim it. It's a huge difference. You won't regret it. If you're in Russia, well, you know the score. There's loads of places that do it. We've got several in the Napa that do it. And like I say, any colour stitching, blah, blah, blah. Anyhow, it's enough of that steering wheels. So, still no, what we got? What's happening in Kursk? Obviously I'm not there, so I can only tell you what I hear from various news outlets. And I think what you'll probably hear in the West will be a very positive spin on what's happened and how it's a massive loss to Russia, etc, etc, etc. The reality is, did it catch Russia on the hop? Yeah, probably, otherwise they wouldn't have got in that far in the first place. What was the goal of the operation? Well, categorically it was to seize the nuclear power plant. Now, Ukraine and the West are denying that and saying, no, that's not the goal. The goal was to seize territory. Well, that's crap. Absolute rubbish. The goal was to solely go after this nuclear territory, this nuclear power plant. I think everybody knows that that's got a brain. Because, you know, that's a last-ditch attempt to try and turn the tide or at least give them some bargaining power, they think. The reality is it hasn't changed a damn thing. They've incurred into Kursk a certain distance and then it's ground to a halt. For that operation to have been successful, it needed to be done in 48 hours, maybe 72 hours max. And whilst they may have caught the Russians on the hop, so to speak, and not entirely ready for it, because I think realistically Russia probably looked at it as a crazy, stupid scheme that nobody in their right mind would do. Enter Ukrainian high command. And that's why they weren't ready for it. But they are dealing with it now. So it isn't going any further. It has ground to a halt. And Russia is now systematically encompassing the soldiers that have come across the border and will slowly push them back out. You can read into that whatever you want, but the amount of helicopter gunships that are flying about over there, it's not somewhere I'd want to be. So I think, you know, there's probably going to be another couple of weeks of fighting. But it isn't going to change the outcome. Case in point, it hasn't stopped Russia anywhere else on the front lines. They haven't relocated troops from anywhere else on the front lines. So it's not like it's been a major problem to deal with. It's just been an inconvenience. And, you know, regardless of your political views on Russia, Ukraine, the West, whatever, it has been a catastrophic loss of life for no gain. Now, some can argue that that's war. You know, you have to take risks and you have to push and you have to do this and you have to do that. But I think anybody in their right mind, including most of the Western press as well, I think, have sort of said it's a crazy idea. And, you know, I think all that's happened is that a lot of people have lost their lives. And that seems to be the theme. Dear, oh dear. That's really the only way you can look at it, isn't it? There's a lot of people dying needlessly, all because some politician that's never seen a gun thinks it's a good idea. And there we go. Don't want to get too political. I'll probably get shut down or censored, won't I? But no, so the Kursk region, that has ground to a halt. It will not be going any further, and all it's now doing is a case of Russia systematically, can't put it any other way, killing Ukrainian soldiers. Sure, Russia's probably going to lose some soldiers as well, but the result is that is going to get pushed back out, and it's going to have achieved absolutely nothing other than made a lot of coffins. So yeah, real shame. But it kind of feels like a last ditch attempt, really. You know, Russia continues to push forward on its entire front line. That hasn't changed, that hasn't stopped. So I don't see what this was, you know, what were you going to do? You capture a nuclear power plant, what are you going to do then? Phew, dear oh dear. Crazy people do crazy things, and that's the worry. But as I say, I think it's being dealt with, and it certainly won't be anymore, and it's probably why you may not hear a lot more about it in the West. I think had it been more successful, it would have been plastered everywhere. But now you're probably going to hear very little about it, and that tends to be what happens throughout this conflict. If there's even a hint of something positive on the Ukrainian side, it is plastered everywhere, and massive victory for Ukraine and all of these massive bullshit headlines. And I call them bullshit because it isn't true. It is just about generating a hype and justifying a war that shouldn't be happening. But if anything goes wrong, it just, it didn't happen and get swept under the carpet. And that's criminal. That really is, because the people should hear both sides. If you're in the West, you should be getting both sides of the story. Some of you may have heard that YouTube has been turned off in Russia, or is on the verge of being turned off. And, censorship is wrong in any level. I think people should always be able to find out information. But before you start screaming, Russia is an authoritarian state and that's why they're doing it, what do you think Britain done? What do you think the US has done? Can you watch Russia Today in England? No. So the West did this to Russia months ago, years ago. So what's the difference? Why is it different? Why is Russia a dictatorship state and, evil because they're going to turn YouTube off, but Britain and the US, etc., isn't? Yeah, it's double standards, as it always is. Do as we say, not as we do. And I think the people are wiser to it now. I hope they are. They need to be. Zeddy, 5 weeks till I'm in Russia. Wow. Went to Russia via visa centre in London again, and the woman there is lovely, like I said. Yeah, she is. She said she's part of the furniture there by now. Yeah. I can't remember her name, bless her. But there's somebody else there. I think it's Ilya. That's always been so helpful to me with email as well. Whenever I sent an email asking a question, it's always Ilya that responds, and it's so quick as well. It's so it's not waiting days and days for a response. It's it's within an hour or two, and sometimes much quicker. So I definitely want to give a shout out to Ilya. Not that he'll ever see this, of course, but I'm sure it's a he. Might be a she. Don't know. It's words on the screen. But whoever it is, always been super helpful. So Russian Visa Centre, very, 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 very efficient. By the book. Don't think you're going to get any special treatment or anything like that. But what you will get is it by the book. They will help you. They will show you what you've done wrong. And they will tell you how to correct it. But they're not going to just overlook it. If you've wrote something down on the form wrong, don't think you're going to cross it out and just write the letters above it or anything like that. No, you're going to write that form out again. So if you're going to the Visa Centre, take your time, book an appointment, and be prepared to change your form. Go there with your personal ID number that you get when you apply online, because you print the visa out online, and you can actually go to the Visa Centre and change it in the Visa Centre. So when you rock up the first time with your visa, it will be wrong. You will not have got it right straight away, I guarantee it. There'll be something that you'll need to alter. The lady there, I can't remember her name, like I say, she will correct it straight away. She will tell you that's wrong, and you can go to the computer in the corner of the room and change it while you're there. So it's no big drama, and it's a reasonably straightforward process. You've just got to be patient. If you don't like filling forms out, you might get a bit stressed, but you just need to be a bit patient. Cool Pot, you don't give crypto advice, but can you give any advice as to who to use to buy in the UK? I'm struggling. I give them all my detail, and then once I get in, many of them don't allow because UK crypto laws. Okay, and it's easy-ish to be able to get converted to rubles when in Russia. Okay, so I'm assuming you're in the UK. If anybody asks me about crypto in the UK and they're not a long-term player in the space, they're fairly new to it, I will always say to them, and I don't give financial advice, so this isn't financial advice, but I will always say uphold. The reason I say uphold is not because it's the best exchange, but because it's FCA regulated. So Financial Conduct Authority in the UK regulates the banks, it regulates all financial institutions, and it regulates Uphold. Uphold was given a pass by the FCA many years ago, I think it was. So whenever you have a problem and getting into the world of crypto, trust me, the banks will make it difficult for you. They do not want you in crypto, not for your own protection, but because they don't earn any money from it. So they will make it difficult for you. But whenever you run into a problem, if you want to send money to a crypto exchange like Uphold, for example, and they block it, you can ring them up and just tell them, why have you blocked this? This is an FCA regulated UK company. And what you'll get is a load of, oh, well, we thought it was fraud, and you just stick to that. It's an FCA regulated company. You have no reason to block this transaction. I'm telling you to release it. They should release it. Occasionally, the person you're speaking to doesn't know the law and will fob you off, and you have to ring back, and be prepared to do that several times. And worst case scenario, ring Uphold and say, I want to transact with you, but my bank informs me that you're a scam company and anything that I do with you is fraudulent. And you watch how quick Uphold get on the phone to, your bank and get that straightened out. Because like I say, they're a legal entity in the UK. So that's why I recommend Uphold. There are other crypto exchanges available. Coinbase works in the UK. Fees are a bit higher than they are in Uphold. Uphold is a very simple exchange to use as well. So I would suggest that Uphold. That's your first port of call. And then as for using it to transfer money to Russia, to rubles, again, there are many options. I'd hate to be here sitting and saying do this and then you have a problem. So you've got to do a bit of research. Getting into the world of crypto requires a bit of research, and what I've never done and will never do is give everybody the answers, because then when you run into a problem you don't know what to do and you've just listened to some bloke on the internet. So you've got to do some research and understand what you're getting into. It's a minefield and it takes time and it takes commitment. So yeah, that's what you need to do. I hope that's helped, Cool Pot. Zeddy, I'm going to Russia again next year and spending some time in Russia. Won't happen, but if I run into you, I will lose my mind. Listen, Zeddy, don't lose your mind. I am just a bloke. Just skin and bone. I'm more than happy to bump into anybody and say hello and have a chat about anything. I'm well travelled. I'm old. There's nothing particularly clever about me other than experience. I've got a lot of experience in a lot of different directions. So I'm not clever. I just remember what I've done. So I'm more than happy to have a chat with anybody about pretty much anything. Cool pot, thanks. I'm considering doing a 9-month Russian language course at a uni and would get a student visa. Well, you can actually use that, if that's what you mean, you can use that as a way to get the visa, your student visa. So I assume that's what you mean. You're not talking about doing a 9-month language course in the UK, are you? You're suggesting doing that in Russia on a student visa, which is, yeah, it's a brilliant way to come to the country. And they're very open to that. I'll tell you now, I'm finding the language extremely difficult. You know, I'm an old dog, and for me it is extremely challenging, really challenging. I don't want to put anybody off, and some people learn languages very quick. My dad used to. He would, you know, he spoke half a dozen languages, and he just learnt them really quickly. Unfortunately, I didn't get those genes. I got the logical genes, the point of reason, and critical thought, but I didn't get the part of the brain that learns the language. And right now I'd gladly swap it, because I'm desperate to be able to speak the language, but so many different directions people tell you to go. You know, use this app, speak to this person, follow this course, blah blah, and you end up, you know, running around chasing your tail. There's lots of different people that are willing to try and teach you, but you know, the cost is the cost. Nothing in life is cheap, and you have to look at it and think, am I going to get value for money with that? You know, when they want X amount of money per hour, and you're going to need X amount of hours per week and X amount of weeks to speak it, blah 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 blah. So yeah, I would thoroughly recommend coming to Russia on a student visa to learn the language. I think it's a very good idea. Thank you. Yeah, well, you're welcome. No problem. It's just my thoughts. Like I say, I'm more than happy to help anybody. I've got a Telegram channel, YouTube. I don't know how you guys are getting on with YouTube. I don't know if everything is playing all right. I don't know if this live stream's all right. The fact that I'm getting asked questions, I guess it is. It'll be interesting to know whether it's glitchy or whether it's very laggy, or whether it's any good. Please drop something in the comments and let me know. On Wi-Fi, YouTube for us now, I think in parts of Russia it's no problem. Certainly in the Moscow region it's probably fine, but for us here at the moment, our Wi-Fi for YouTube, I don't know if it's turned off completely, but it may as well be. So everything now is on mobile. So yeah, where I normally will do an hour and a half live stream in the evening with a load of topics to go through, I'm not sure I'll be able to do that. We'll have to see. I might have to do it from the pool and see what happens, but please let me know if this is okay, if the audio is okay, if the visual is okay, or whether it's glitching and whether I sound like a Dalek. Speaking of Daleks, looks like my one's run out of battery, which is good because he's cleaned. He's done his duty, bless him. So, in case I haven't introduced you before, this is Scuba Steve, or Derek the Diver. We kind of settled on Derek the Diver, but I keep slipping up and calling him Scuba Steve. And he is basically an underwater hoover for the pool. As you can see, made by Best Way. Now, if you're in the UK, Best Way has always been one of those Amstrad kind of companies. And if you're old enough to remember that, you know what I mean. And if you're not, I mean cheap. But I've got to say, this thing is brilliant. It is absolutely the simplest design. There's no real moving parts to it. The wheels aren't, excuse the noise, the wheels aren't driven. It is just a water jet that comes out the top. So these are just jockey wheels. So it's a very simple design. Let's see if we can open him up, get the filter out. And that's it. That's the filter cartridge. Holds 3.5 litres and just hoovers up all your bits and bobs. Yeah, look at that. Pool's pretty clean because we clean it every day. But Certainly I know people that have got one of these after seeing the results. And in Russia here, it's about £100. In the UK, it's about £220. So if you've got a pool in the UK and you haven't got one of these, thoroughly recommend it. Biggest advantage is what you've just seen me do there, is lift out the filter. It is not the conventional robot that is attached to a hose and then runs through your filtration system, because you're doing two things. One, you're blocking your filter with everything you suck out of the pool, and two, most of the time everything you suck out of the pool goes through your filtration system, back through your jets, and back into the pool again. Whereas with this, it's a separate cartridge, so it never goes in the pool again, and you just rinse it out. A bit of fresh water, rinse the net off, get the bugs off, and that's it. And then because we've got a saltwater pool, I always rinse this in fresh water as well. It's good practice anyway, regardless. But yeah, just rinse it off in fresh water. Fully, obviously waterproof because it stays submerged in the swimming pool for an hour and a half. So just give it a good rinse, and that's it. Go and charge it for about 4 hours, and it will run for at least an hour and a half, and it just rattles its way around the bottom of the pool. Now I know you can get ones that climb the side of the pool and they map your pool, and they come up on an app on your phone and blah blah blah. Yeah, great, so what? I don't need to see a map of my pool. I don't need to know where the robot's been by looking at an app on my phone, because what I can do is walk out to the pool and look in the bottom and go, yeah, that's clean. That's how easy that is. So spending £1,000 or £1,500, I've seen some of them cost. I don't get that. Why? Why would you? I mean, you probably think there's no point in buying one of these cheap ones because it'll be rubbish. Well, I can tell you now, it's not. This thing has sucked up dead frogs. So it's got plenty of power and it sucks everything up off of the bottom. Yes, it doesn't climb up the walls, but I've never needed to scrub these walls in a year of this pool operating. Whether that's because it's salt water, whether it's because it's just balanced right, I don't know. But I have not had to brush the walls once. The only thing I do is the water line. I go around maybe once a week with just a little brush and just brush the water line. Just because the pool, the way it's set up, is running for 4 hours and then static for 4 hours. So it's 4 hours on, 4 hours off. So you can sometimes get a little bit of a line round, but it just wipes off. So that's the only thing I do with the pool. So I do not see the reason to spend, as I say, £1,000, £1,500 on some fancy, all singing, all dancing pool vacuum, when that thing does a brilliant job. And it's so simple to use, such a simple design. Yeah, it doesn't make any sense. Right, let's have a look. Cool pot. Would it work via VPN? What, me watching YouTube or streaming to YouTube? So, not entirely sure what you mean, but I'll answer. Thanks for saying everything's very clear. That's good to know. Is still water pool better? Saltwater pool better? Yes, it is, definitely. 100%. I've got experience of both, and 100% saltwater is better. It's nicer on your skin, it's nicer on your eyes. Much nicer. So just from that perspective alone, it's still chlorine, but it's natural chlorine. It's a generator that converts the salt. Yeah, 100%. And there's a bit of a thing at the moment with all the celebrities upgrading their pools to a saltwater pool, you know, because it's the best to have and blah, blah, fucking blah. But ultimately it is the better thing to have. So if you're setting up a pool, saltwater. I digress. Sorry, Cool Pot. With VPN, so I tried to upload a video. I think my last video I uploaded, which was about XRP, the cryptocurrency. Wasn't so much about XRP, but more about the influencers talking absolute rubbish to get your clicks. Have a look at it. You know, I'm not interested in clicks. I don't earn any money from YouTube at all, not a single penny. Happy to screenshot my YouTube studio to prove it. If anybody ever says any different, they're crap. I know what YouTube pays out, and I know who earns money, and it ain't me. But I don't want to. In fact, I'm more than happy to turn monetization off before somebody says, why have you got monetization on? I'm more than happy to turn it off if it made the videos more accessible. But having monetization on means that YouTube actually pushes the channel a bit more, because they obviously generate ads and get ad revenue. So it makes sense to have it on, but I haven't earned a penny, and I can absolutely prove that anytime. But anyhow, I digress. So uploading that video would normally take about 2 minutes. It took 1 hour and 20 minutes the other day. So it's significantly reduced speed here in Russia, but the mobile seems to be working still. So I guess I can live stream via the mobile. Hopefully that will work in the evening, because I want to do a couple of live streams in the evening and get back to that kind of format. I've still got some videos that I want to make, but I don't just want to churn out boring content. I want to do stuff that people want to see. And I'd much rather do a live stream where somebody can ask me in real time something about living in Russia, whether it's from an English perspective, whether it's about the south of Russia, whether it's just about the weather. Whatever you want, I'm more than happy to answer it if I can. And if you're being too personal, I'll tell you. Simple as that. So, yeah, I don't want to just churn out, you know, tanks in Russia, tanks in Moscow. You know, I've gone to a beach. You know, I'm in a supermarket, or here's the shelves after sanctions. You know, we all do that. We've all done it, but you know, I think you do it once and walk away from it. I don't want to just be doing that all the time. I'd rather do live streams. I much prefer bouncing off of people. I much prefer somebody actually asking me something in real time, and interacting with people. And it's good because you never know what somebody's going to ask, and that's what I like. It's fun, and this needs to be fun, because when it stops being fun, it stops being. As simple as that. Relocated to here with a cat. Okay, fine. So, a bit of watermelon, peach and cherry juice. Oh, lovely. Look at that. Cheers. Yeah, that is the spot. Why aren't I drinking beer out of a San Miguel glass? Well, might have to drive somewhere later. So, yeah, I definitely don't want to be drinking beer, do I? So where are you all? Where are you from? You haven't told me. If you're watching, where are you? Where are you watching from? How's the weather? How's life in general? What are your plans? Do you own your own property? Are you building something? Are you looking to come to Russia? Derbyshire, excellent. Don't know it very well as a county. Probably no towns in it. I've been across the UK, most, well, top to bottom and left to right. So I know the UK pretty well. Mainly with racing. Constantine, Athens, Greece. Wow, awesome. Across the water, hi. We've got some of your stuff still here, actually, Constantine. There's a big old ruin down on the seafront. I don't know if you've seen it in one of my videos. Lovely Greek ruin. I've done a couple of videos from that area, actually. Being lovely very well preserved here in Russia, and they're looking after it, and they're, you know, digging up the artifacts, etc., etc. It's really cool. Where in the UK were you from originally? As far south as you can go without getting wet. So I was from a town called Eastbourne, in between Brighton and Hastings on the coast. So I'm a Cancerian, I'm a crab, and I like to have one toe in the water. I do not like living inland. Hence, we didn't go to Moscow. I'm not a city boy. I do not like living inland. I don't like the air. I find it very stuffy. I like to be near the sea. So a Napa, I mean, that's not the reason we came here. It's just one of the many reasons. But a Napa for me is the Russian version of Eastbourne, or maybe Eastbourne's the English version of Russia. Sorry, I'm not sure, but yes, you've seen the video. Cool. Yeah, so that's why we came to this area, this region. It was one of the reasons. But yeah, seaside resort, Eastbourne. It breaks my heart to see what it's come to, but it hasn't come to where it is over a couple of years. It's been decades of decline. Yeah, I mean, it's got the reputation now of God's waiting room, the Blue Rinse Brigade. You know, people go to Eastbourne to die, they say. I'm not sure about that, but it feels like it's a dying town. They did inject some money into the town centre a few years ago with a new shopping centre. Half of the shop units are empty. They've never been filled. It's a real shame. It's just going more and more downhill. I did lots of videos from the area, and like any video, it's the same as a photograph. Everything looks pretty on a video, but go and live there and go and walk the streets. It's just a shame. It's not what it used to be. All UK towns are dying, really, especially the coast ones. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, they rely heavily on tourism, and for some reason the town councils don't focus on that. And English people are completely different to the rest of the world, and I've definitely experienced this with many different nationalities, you know, like I say, through racing, going to different countries. Other people will complain. You know, Americans will absolutely complain if something isn't 110% perfect. You will know about it. English people don't. And it's just, you know, and I learnt this in the car trade, you know, and I used to say to sales teams in the car trade, you know, where they would not want to spend any money on a part exchange that they've got in, because, you know, they want to make the maximum out of it. And I would always say to them, it's a false economy. And they say, yeah, but it's a negotiating point. You know, if the bumper's got some scuffs on it and the wheels are, you know, curbed, we'll negotiate. And I used to point out to them, you don't get the chance to negotiate with an Englishman, because they will walk around the car in the forecourt, and if you're lucky and you manage to see them and go out and say, oh, can I help you? They'll say, no, thanks, I'm just looking. And the reason is they've seen the car with damage and they'll just walk away from it. They won't come in and say, oh, I'm quite interested in that BMW, but it's got some damage around it. Can we talk about that? They will just look at it and go, oh, it's had a hard life. And they just will not even have that conversation with you. And it's very much the same, I think, with shops, you know, with nightclubs, with all of these people that just run the shop. You know, there's lots of restaurants in Eastbourne that are still the same now as they have been for 20 years. And they're just dying. And they don't know why. You know, they were a great business 20 years ago, and they blame everything else, and they don't look at their own interior. And the reason is people turn up there and the food has slipped, maybe, and they've tried to cut costs. You know, they're buying cheap steak now instead of decent quality meat because they can't afford it, etc., etc. And it has a knock-on effect. And in England, people won't tell you. They won't tell you what the problem is. They'll just walk away. And it's the same with the towns. And when you've got a tourist town, what's the number one thing? It needs to be clean and it needs to be safe. And unfortunately, Eastbourne isn't either of those. Not anymore. Used to be, but not anymore. So when you start cutting services on you know, road sweeping and cleaning, and when you cut services from the police, so the police aren't walking the streets anymore, what you end up with is a dirty town with homeless people, and it's not their fault necessarily that they're homeless. I'm not directing this at the homeless people. I don't think anything is done enough for homeless people, nowhere near. But you end up with homeless people, you end up with drug addicts, you end up with organised crime, and you end up with all of this, and it just makes any tourist feel unsafe. And yes, they've been coming to Eastbourne for 15 years every year religiously, but all of a sudden they stop coming. And what I don't ever understand is that the powers that be either A, don't see it, or B, have no inclination to do anything about it. And it's just absolute suicide if you've got a town that relies on tourism. It's suicide. You have to make sure that that place is pristine all the time, and you have to make sure it's safe all the time. If the suburbs are a bit dodgy, okay, you'll get away with that. But the town centre, the hotels, the guest houses, they should all feel safe. And it's certainly all the streets, the beach, everything should be clean. And that's something that a Napa does and ensures. Safety here in Russia, it's not even a consideration. Doesn't even factor in anywhere. I have not seen, in 18 months of being here, I have not seen one instance of violence. Not one. And I mean that, not one. Not a road rage incident, nothing. Nothing. It's absolutely mind-blowing when you come from the UK, where road rage is, you know, it's part of daily life. If you're commuting to work, there's always somebody screaming out the window or forcing their way in and shouting abuse at you, or, you know, stopping the car and jumping out of it. There's always something like that going on. I haven't seen it at all, not once. And it you know, blows your mind. Same with, you know, on a Friday night, drunks hammering around the town, throwing bottles around, screaming and shouting. Again, regular occurrence in the UK, unheard of here. I mean, I'm speaking about where I live. I'm not talking about the whole of Russia. It's a big place and I haven't visited it. I'm just talking about where I live. And certainly here, you just cannot believe how safe the place feels. Everybody keeps themselves to themselves. They're not in your business. But if you start talking to somebody, they'll talk to you and they'll help you. And they do help, you know, they help each other. But what they don't do here is get hung up on rubbish, on the tiny trivial stuff that us in the UK, we make a big deal out of. Whereas here, they don't care. It's just irrelevant. You know, somebody parks across your drive. Okay, and are you going out? No, it doesn't matter then. If you are going out, just ask them to move the car and they'll come up to the car and say, I'm really sorry, and they'll move it. So where's the hassle? Whereas in the UK, oh my God, you'd lose your mind over that. Somebody's parked across my drive, because we're so defensive about our personal space. Whereas here, they just look at you like you're an idiot. If you had that attitude, you'd be like, well, what are you worried about? And that's a hard thing to get used to when you come from the UK to here. Yeah, the UK, the towns are really struggling, and it's a death of 1,000 cuts, as I've said before in live streams. It isn't an overnight process. The press will print it as that, but the press is there to make you scared. Remember that. It's not there to tell you the news. It's there to make you conform, and it's there purely to give you a false narrative and an inflated narrative to toe the line, because the more fearful you are, the more easier you are to control. So it's all about division and fear. And yeah, it's a shame. It really is. You know, new leadership is needed in the political class throughout the West, and I don't know if it's ever going to happen. I'd like to think so, but if you saw UK towns and cities over the last month, it's a bit shocking. Yeah, I mean, I see the news call part, obviously, and and that's the thing. I can watch the news here from Britain, so I can keep up to date with UK news. One, because I can just find it on the internet, but I can find it on TV as well. If you watch Russian news, they will quite often comment about American news, and they will show American news and British news. How often have you seen, if you're in the UK, how often have you seen Russian news? I'm going with not once, but correct me if I'm wrong. But here every night there will be commentating on, you know, the British news. British media has said this, British media is doing that, US media is this, you know, Biden, Trump, the Trump assassination. It's all covered on Russian news because it's world news. In the UK, no, you can't see Russia. Bad, Russia bad. It's not, guys. It's really not. Please don't believe what you hear about Russia. It isn't true. It's as simple as that. It is just. It's just not true. It's pick a subject. Everything here I can see is better. It's certainly better than anything that I've encountered in the UK, and it's certainly not what I've been told about Russia. None of that has panned out to be true. So it's an eye-opener coming to Russia. It really is. It makes you question your whole sanity and your entire life. Really does. But yeah, it's a real shame what's happening to the UK. I don't know if it's reversible. I really don't. I hope it is. But I think it will take a massive change in leadership and direction. The best thing I think the UK did was get out of Europe. Lots of people are going to disagree with that for many reasons. But getting out of Europe means that we do have some control, and we are, you know, somewhat able to distance ourselves from some policies. But every country should be a sovereign state. There shouldn't be this one globalist agenda trying to control everything under one roof, because it doesn't work. You can't have one rule for everyone. It just doesn't work, because geography plays a massive part. You know, people's lives, people's religions, people's beliefs, people's work, people's climate, everything has an effect. You know, you make a law in one country, it doesn't mean it's going to translate to another. So how can you possibly rule from one central point? You can't. I've had experience of that in the corporate world. As soon as you have a big business with lots and lots of sites and they try and operate from one central point, it goes to shit, because they do not understand the regional variations and the geographical variations. And I know that personally. So, and it's no different with a country. So countries should be run independently, but obviously getting on with their neighbours. And it's not the path we're heading on. Certainly in the West, and that's, I think, why the West is in decline. It is here in Russia. Russia is open to anybody and willing to talk to anybody. But what it won't do is be dictated to anymore, and it won't be bullied anymore. And I think that's true of an awful lot of the countries in the world, you know, where there was this globalist superpower that could control everything with fear and intimidation and bullying. That's no longer the case. You know, the bullied have grown up, and they're no longer little kids getting knocked about the playground. Now they're the big boys. And the world is changing, and the bullies are desperate to hang on to their status quo, and it's not going to happen, unfortunately. So they're going to have to get used to a new reality, and they're going to have to like it or lump it. And unfortunately, a lot of the politicians seem to want to fight it. It's not a good idea. But there we go. There's my political speech. Right, I'm going to, unless anybody's got anything that they want to know, I'll wrap this particular live up, and I'll probably do a video. There's an area near me which shows like a summer house region. It's called dacha region, really, you know, but a lot of English people have no clue what a dacha is, and I'm probably one of them. But back in Soviet times, companies would come to areas and they would buy land for their employees, and their employees would get pieces of land allocated to them. And, you know, they would build sheds on them or small houses, and there'd be certain rules and restrictions. You know, it couldn't be a permanent dwelling, or I think you could pay what they called a fine and upgrade it to a permanent dwelling, but pretty much it was designed to be, you know, a recreational place, somewhere where you grew your own fruit and veg, and that's, you know, that was prolific throughout Russia. Now in modern times, a lot of these areas, these little settlements, are gradually, one by one, getting turned into proper houses and proper dwellings. You know, obviously the fine, I guess, was probably fixed at the time and is now extremely cheap, so they just pay that and they can convert the shed into a proper house, or, you know, it's changed hands or whatever. I'm not sure of the reasons why, but these areas that were just little allotments and sheds are now a mixture of, you know, some are still old shack type buildings and some are brand new buildings. And there's a lovely little area near me that unless you knew it was there, you'd have no clue it was there. You can't see it from the road or anything. You've got to go and look for it. But it is a perfect example. It shows an old Soviet farm that's derelict now. It shows old, very old dacha style housing and outbuildings, and right up to modern, because it's gradually getting developed. So I do want to do a little video from there and get that uploaded, if of course I can upload it. And yeah, I've got to do the final part of the Grape to Glass video, part 6, which is from one of the retail outlets in the town, which I must get round to doing. But I'm probably going to head more down the path of live streaming. Just as I say, I can answer questions far easier that way, and in real time, rather than you know, somebody making a comment on the video and, you know, us going back and forth. But failing that, if you don't want to wait for a live stream, or you're going to miss the live stream, remember I've got a Telegram channel, The Plastic Russian in Telegram, and there's a channel and a chat. If you find the channel, you go onto the channel, and at the top there'll be a tab that says Discuss. You click on that and it takes you to the chat, so it's almost like 2 channels. And, you know, I will see that pretty much any time. So if there's something that you suddenly think of that you want to know, something you're curious about, something you've heard in the news maybe, something, you know, you're curious about what life is like in southern Russia, you know, what are the people like, what's the food like, anything at all, you can ask it in the Telegram, and I'll do my absolute best to answer it as quickly as I can. So for now, I'll wind this one up. Thanks for tuning in. Wasn't intending to be on this long. I just thought I'd jump on really to see how the mobile data was working. And yeah, hopefully I'll catch you in the next scheduled live stream, or see you on my Telegram channel. But thanks for watching. Please like and share. It's far more important for me that the channel is shared than anything else. So if you can share it, if you can let anybody know there's an idiot from England living in southern Russia. Most people don't see southern Russia because everybody goes to Moscow or St. Petersburg. Let's face it. Look at your YouTube channel. Most people are from Moscow, aren't they? Or the Moscow region. So it's nice to be able to show a different part of Russia. So yeah, Konstantin, you're welcome. Absolutely. And yeah, I hope things in Greece are going well. And yeah, thanks very much, guys. And as I always say, I'll see you in the next one.